Welcome to Media Interactive's comprehensive review of Red Dead Redemption 2, arguably the biggest game of the year. I would love to start out by talking about some of the issues of this game. Upon launch and upon finishing the tutorial, it became evident that there was a lot of small things going on screen. There are a lot of different things you arguably need to know in order to play the game effectively. And with that came a lot of glitches, a lot of different things that clearly weren't supposed to be happening, but you didn't necessarily know how to remedy them, or if you were in the wrong or simply the game was in the wrong. An example of that would be what to do after hunting or killing an animal, what the dynamics are like for skinning versus carrying pelts, everything from interacting with the control scheme and the menu layout to ultimately finishing a quest or finishing an objective wasn't always clear, and it's often frustrating, especially as the game is just starting out and the map is opening up for arguably the first time.
So another thing that is really frustrating in the game is you're in the world, you're Arthur Morgan, and you have these intense scenes where you're interrogating a civilian for money, and then it cuts out and you basically have to spend the rest of the time looting. And you could say, like in other RPG games like Skyrim or any other open world games, looting is helpful to find new guns, new armor, new equipment. But in Red Dead, some of the looting in this game is pointless. You're basically going from cabinet to cabinet to look for silver watches and money clips, which for granted is $3. It's not helpful in the grand scheme of things to search a whole house and to check every single drawer when it's basically going to come out to $3. And it becomes a waste of time, and it makes you really remember that you're in a video game, because I think the best part of this game is when you don't actually know that you're in a video game, so you think you're in a real world. But these moments like this where you're just closing and opening looking for something that has $2 worth of value, it's really frustrating.
It's a well-known fact that this game takes some getting used to. But again, I feel like gamers are ultimately going to need some sort of cue. We're going to need some sort of direction when we're in these different buildings or interacting with these certain characters. And again, we found it helpful to make waypoints constantly and make sure we are doing what we're supposed to be doing, because as big and as beautiful as this world is, it can be very easy to get lost and or confused by what's in front of you. One thing that definitely took some getting used to was the navigation system, because you are strictly limited to riding your horse to and from places. Walking is simply not an option in a world this big, and with that, there are ways to travel fast. There are ways to actually unlock fast travel from your home base camp to other parts of the world, but actually not vice versa. You are limited to one-way fast travel to unique spots around the map that hopefully will grow as the game continues. But other than that, you are going to be limited to your horse and to what's called a cinematic camera, which comes in often in the game, delivering kind of a widescreen effect that can help you be immersed in the world just as soon after you figure out how to officially traverse.
Yeah, and so there's a few wonky things in the game that, if you remember the game took 10 years to come out, you would think that they would fix these things. But other than that, when you look past those things, this game becomes gorgeous. And in moments like this where you're actually setting up camp and you're eating and you're surviving in the world instead of just running around and doing things with no sense of time, the game really turns into a living world, and this is where the game shines. And the freedom is just displayed perfectly in this game when you're able to set up camp for the night and actually eat the food that you've hunted and actually see the sky change and actually see the world change as you change, and you wake up and you can see how much weight you've lost, and your facial hair changes. And yeah, and just another way that this game shines is the freedom that you're able to experience in action sequences. So with these quests, some of the quests are just going to find money from people, and that just seems like a simple task, but it involves some sort of creativity from the player, which is rewarded. So you could think, okay, I have to get money from this person. I'm either going to go and interrogate him, or I'm going to shoot for it first, and which you're told not to kill them because they're giving you money, and it's a good source of income, so don't kill them. So you have to be able to think through these things before you actually go into scenario, which I think is really beautiful from this game, rewarding freedom. And then the chase begins as they start to run away, and you have to think, like, how am I best going to catch them? You've got a couple things at your arsenal, like the lasso. You could go up behind them and punch them, jump on their horse. But as you can see, a train approaches, and the player starts to think creatively. So when I played this through, I just went lasso straight for the player. Here Caleb is playing and the train comes and he's thinking, oh man, I really want to engage with that. And it just rewards you for that. And also kind of gives you some consequences with that also, which I think is a really cool thing because you're able to say, like, this is my chase. I'm able to live this action sequence out completely the way I would. And it works seamlessly. As Caleb jumps from the train over to the person, you can almost imagine this be a movie scene. And that's awesome to see a game treat every decision, every moment as its own adventure. And sometimes it doesn't actually pay off. Sometimes you're actually realizing that getting on a train and trying to hunt someone down isn't the best option because they can stop and move forward, and then you're left to break every bone in your body.
Without a doubt, the first few hours of this game are home to the question of what in the world am I supposed to be doing? But that question becomes very quickly replaced with just moments of surprise and exclamation where you just think to yourself, I can't believe I am doing this. And you just ask what's next. There are so many different dynamic side quests and things you can do. It hones back to what made Grand Theft Auto so great, and that there are silly side quests that are yet so believable and fun, and not necessarily something you would expect coming from the game. But once you are in this world and you get to know some of these characters, you start to establish a history, a background with these characters, and that drives the campaign forward, because while you're doing silly drinking quests like this one, that will ultimately resonate with you and your character as you move forward in the story and you see how you have already been involved in these people and how you can continue to be involved with them as the game goes on.
Yeah, and that's the sort of storytelling that we love from these games. Games that narrative drives the story forward. The characters live and breathe as you do also. And it's funny. And it's hilarious to see the characters grow as you do and get drunk as you choose to in the game. And you have to deal with those consequences as if, you know, every person in the bar looks like the friend you're looking for, and that can be frustrating. And it's equally frustrating to play it out, and then you get slapped in the face from your friend after you realize you've drank too much. Finally, I think the most beautiful part of this game is also not only the freedom in the action sequences, but how it actually plays off, how the AI responds and how the guns play and how the horses play. And basically it brings all the beautiful elements we've just talked about into a hyper scenario where all of these things combine. And you've got bounty hunters from the left, from the right, you've got the weather effects, you've got your companions, you've got your horse, and each is its own character. If you were to treat the horse as if it was just a means to get somewhere, boy, you would be wrong, because your horse is actually a character, is actually something you need to control, because if you play this game, if you hit a rock, basically the quest is completely over. And the AI respond as humans would. They trip, they fall, their hat gets blown off, and so do you, and so do your companions. And actually, in this game, companions actually make a difference. In some games, your companions basically are there to absorb bullets, but in this game, the companions shoot, they respond, they actually talk as the game progresses. They say things that aren't just scripted, but they can say like, hey, wait up, you're going too fast, or oh my goodness, these bullets are grazing our shoulders. And that moment, these moments that are just feel like a real world. So in some, there are some wonky things. There are some bugs, there are some things that make you unplayable, but once you get past that and you live in this world and you take a moment to look out across the world and the characters and everything that they put into this game, the attention to detail is beautiful.
It's beautiful. And once you get to that point where you can navigate your horse while equipping a weapon, while you can throw your hat while simultaneously lassoing an enemy, while you can go where you want, buy what you want, sell what you want, steal what you want in a world that's arguably the biggest we've ever seen. It becomes a game that is unavoidable in the industry. Everybody is talking about it, and for good reason. It's one of our favorite games, and I think ultimately it should be involved in a discussion of the game of our generation.